The Aboriginal people of Australia lived in small communities or tribes, which were mainly extended family groups. And as depicted in this picture, or this historical painting, they were actually liked to live their life naked. They did not wear any clothes at all, but that was just normal for them. You can see they are out on the water in handmade canoes with which they would go fishing. And the water provided a lot of the life sustaining resources for them. In fact, all the resources the Aboriginal people used were from nature, and they never took more than they needed. They basically, you could see this picture shows them living in lean-tos, which are made from sticks and bark. I mean, just basically stuff they find lying around. But the Aboriginals were experts on nature and the environment, and they knew where to find food and they knew where to find resources, but they also were careful not to abuse that, and they only took what they needed. The males and females had completely different roles. The men were hunters and warriors. Sometimes Aboriginal tribes would fight each other, and therefore the men needed to do that. That was their job. They also had, as you can see them here, with spears and woomers. Those tools were used to help them to catch larger game like kangaroos. The women, on the other hand, they had a different job. You can see here some male tools. On the left you have a woomera, which is used to throw a spear, and you have two types of boomerangs there. Those kinds of tools were male tools, and the women weren't allowed to use them at all. The women, on the other hand, they had their own special jobs, which included food preparation, looking after the children, and collecting berries and nuts and things like that, and roots. And therefore these tools represent female tools. After 40,000 years or so of living this way, just living off the bush, living off the land, all of a sudden, one day, a bunch of these strange watercraft turn up, which they were not familiar with, although they had seen them once before, 18 years before when Captain Cook came. Tall ships. A fleet of tall ships, 11 of them. The first fleet. And they sailed into Sydney Harbour, and they came ashore, soldiers, convicts, and that's pretty much all that was on the first fleet. And straight away they started cutting down trees to make huts, making paths and little roads, setting up tents. I mean, they were here to stay. The Aboriginals must have been so confused about who these people were and what they wanted. Okay, this is a historical drawing, and of course they did land at Botany Bay before they came to Sydney Harbour, but they didn't like it there. They didn't think that it was a suitable location, so they moved further up the coast to Sydney Harbour. But look at the clothes they're wearing. I mean, they must have thought, how odd are these people in these strange clothes. But you see the English military wearing the uniforms, and you see the other chaps in chains, they're the convicts. The King of England chose a man called Arthur Phillip to lead the expedition to Sydney to set up the new colony. And the main goal was to set up a prison colony for convicts. But he was to lead the people and make sure that the colony was successful and that people survived there. So it was actually a really, really big job that he was asked of him to do. Interestingly, the king even asked Captain Phillip to make sure he was friendly with the natives and get to know about their customs and language. Little did the Aboriginals know the times were going to change dramatically and be unchangeable. Some of the treatment that they were to receive was harsh.